Now, in this next chart, we're going to look at something called the zoning tax, which is not an official tax, but it is a metaphorical tax given the impact that it has on people within a particular location where this number is very high. And this is a US-centric chart, but other countries may have a similar situation in their urban areas versus their rural areas. The cities with the lowest number are ones where housing is allowed to be built based on free market demand, and therefore housing costs are low. If retail land is going away because of the e-commerce revolution, or office space is in oversupply because of the telework revolution, then demolishing that or converting that to housing as appropriate is more freely allowed in cities like these. And that's why the cost of an impressive house is surprisingly low in cities lower on this list. In the middle, housing costs are somewhat higher than they should be, but not so high that it becomes the dominant thing that people complain about in those cities. And at the top of the list, you have the greatest examples of city mismanagement and government failure at the most fundamental level. And the two big metros in California are high on this list. In fact, the highest of all is where technological disruption is the highest, San Francisco, but also San Jose is quite high. It only looks low in relation to San Francisco. And even Los Angeles is very high, even though Los Angeles does build quite a few more skyscrapers and even 4-story buildings that the Bay Area does not build. Ironically, New York City is number 4 on this list. It's not that bad given the size and global importance of that metropolitan area. Because Manhattan is only a small fraction of New York City, the other boroughs are not quite as expensive because the zoning is not quite as restrictive. And so this is zoning tax as a share of median household income annually, of course, in major U.S. metropolitan areas. It is also a measurement of how much higher housing prices are relative to what they would be if housing construction were permitted to follow free market principles. A San Francisco Bay Area house that is $5 million, which is not a very large house at all, it's a pretty small house with an unimpressive yard, would really only be about $1 million if housing construction were allowed in a free market sense. Los Angeles would also fall by this much. And remember, these are all cities that are considered deep blue, and from a U.S. perspective, that means they are strongholds of Democrat voting, 75 to 85% Democrat voting in these major cities. Yet this zoning tax is the single biggest creator of inequality that's very easily fixable. The higher the zoning tax, the more a city is structured for inequality, where the wealthy keep making more and more home equity gains, while a greater and greater percentage of newcomers or young people are simply priced out of home ownership altogether. And I have other videos on this channel describing what technologies are disrupting that and how this violates first principles, and therefore a whole host of new technologies are working at this situation to rectify it. But for the purposes of this video within our Data University series, this is a chart that comprises quite a bit of food for thought, as well as an understanding of how different things are within U.S. cities. We're not even talking about rural areas, but major U.S. metropolitan areas. Dallas is a very big metropolitan area, yet it has virtually no zoning tax, whereas Seattle, which is a smaller metropolitan area in relation to Dallas, has a pretty high zoning tax. And the higher the zoning tax, the more that area is structurally designed to increase inequality through very artificial means, not free market means, but through an obstruction of free market. Thanks for watching.